All right, everyone, welcome to Strictly Sports. I am Jacob Brown, joined here with Stephen Cash, and this is our Cincinnati Reds 2020 season preview. And this is the team. Listen, these next few days, guys, if you're listening to these podcasts daily or if you're binging them, this NL Central is so close. There's really no right answer as to who's going to win the division, who's going to finish in fourth. But there's going to be some good teams missing the playoffs out of this division. And we're just going to start with the Cincinnati Reds today. They finished in fourth place last year in the NL Central. And let's just look at their projected lineup. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to go lineup, rotation, bullpen, prospects, and if we need to, talk about the bench as well, of course, because it's a vital part of every team. And so let's start with this lineup. And this is just my projected lineup, what I think it's going to be. And I'm going to give two projected lineups, actually. This is against right-handed pitchers. I think their new addition from Japan, Shogo Akiyama, will lead off and play left field. In Japan, he hit .303 with 20 home runs, 62 RBIs, and a .390 on base. He's 31 years old, proven track record out there in Japan, coming to the States and trying to prove it here. I think he'll do a nice job. You have Joey Votto in the two-hole. We all know about him, on-base machine. Maybe not an on-base machine like he used to be, but he's still hitting second. He's actually still above average major league hitter, .332 WOBA, weighted run created plus of 101. And so that weighted run created plus means he's 1% above major league average at this point in his career. Then you go down the order. This is where it gets great. Eugenio Suarez, top third baseman in the bigs, hit 49 bombs with 103 ribbies last year with a .381 WOBA, 133 weighted run created plus. The star-studded defensive third baseman as well. Then Mike Moustakas signed a 4-year, $64 million deal coming over from Milwaukee. I have him projected to clean up and play second base. He had 35 home runs and 87 RBIs last year, a WOBA of .348, and a weighted run created plus of 113. So, an above average major league hitter. You have Nick Castellanos projected to play right field. He also signed a 4-year, $64 million deal coming over from the Cubs. Started the year with the Tigers, played his whole career there. Last year, he hit .289 with 27 home runs, 73 RBIs, a WOBA of .357, and a weighted run created plus of 121. Then you have Jesse Winker, the left fielder, hitting sixth. He had .269 with 16 home runs and 51 RBIs in 113 games, WOBA of .352. Then you have Freddie Galvis, the shortstop, who I actually, before I did these statistical breakdowns, I actually overrated him. He had 23 home runs and 70 RBIs last year, on base under 300, WOBA 307, which is below league average, 89 weighted run created plus, also below average. And then the switch hitting catcher Tucker Barnhart will hit eighth. So against left-handed pitchers, I have Aristides Aquino and Nick Senzel coming into the lineup to replace Akiyama and Winker, the two lefties. So I think that's really a privilege of this roster that you have two right-handed hitting outfielders on the bench that you can have replace Akiyama and Winker. So that's my breakdown of the lineup. What do you think of this lineup, Stephen? I actually think this is a very above-average lineup.
Yeah, if you think about the Reds, no one, thinks about winning. I mean, last year they won 75 games. We talked about it very quietly. Definitely some room to be very shifty this year. I mean, you got Akiyama, you got Mike Moustakas, Nick Castellanos. I mean, guys that you can really shift in and out. Good additions in Castellanos and Moustakas. Moose batting .254 last year, 35 homers, 87 RBIs. That's my I put a star next to his name, the biggest addition for them in the offseason. So definitely some run production that people don't really think about when you think about Cincinnati.
And Suarez with 49 home runs.
Yeah, so you look at it, there's definitely power potential, and they sent down Derek Dietrich in the offseason, but that's a guy too that's been in the league a while that could get called back up at some point, has tons of power potential. But then you look at Freddie Galvis, 23 homers, 70 RBIs. So you have a lot of room for run production in this lineup, and like you just said, going in against left-handed pitching, you can shift that lineup, take out Shogo, take out Winker, and then put in the righties in the lineup. That definitely gives you an upper hand when you're going into a weekend series against teams that have a couple lefties in that lineup. So I definitely like the direction they've headed. They've made some great accusations over the offseason, and could be exciting for the Reds.
I agree with you, man. I mean, this is a team I've been on the whole offseason. I think I've actually been in on them since they made the Sonny Gray trade. I looked at them last year. I said, this team, they make a few additions. They've got some pitchers coming. They've got some offensive prospects coming. They just need a few pieces to spruce up this team. And that's what they did to me. I mean, you add a Moustakas, who's a top 10 second baseman, really top five. You add Nick Castellanos, who's a top 10 left fielder. These are real contributors. You have Aquino on the bench, who came up last year and hit 19 bombs in 56 games. Will that happen again? No, but he, seems to have a massive amount of power in there. You have Nick Senzel, who's a top prospect, just sitting there on the bench as a platoon player. You've got Jonathan India, a guy from from University of Florida, sitting in the minors as a third base prospect. I see him probably as the Votto replacement in a few years once Votto gets old. Because remember, guys, Joey Votto is 36 years old now, not getting any younger. And, his production is going down as the years go on. Usually happens with guys in their mid-30s. But that's how I look at this Reds team. I look at it as this is probably the best lineup in the division. And, we can compare it to the Cubs when we do the Cubs pod and everything. But if you look at these advanced stats and you really do a deep dive on the comparisons of these lineups, the Reds are right there with Chicago as being just as good. I think the totality of the Reds offense is better than the totality of the Cubs offense. A lot like Atlanta, the Cubs lineup dies after, actually the Atlanta lineup dies after 4. The Cubs lineup dies after about 5. So I really like the Reds lineup. We'll get into the rotation right now. This is the even better part, in my opinion. You've got Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray, Trevor Bauer, Anthony DeSclafani, and Wade Miley. Those first 3 guys, they're all aces or arguable aces in this league. You have Castillo, who had 226 strikeouts. That's 10.6 per 9. Again, like I said in the Pirates pod, anything over 10 is elite in that strikeouts per 9. Same thing with Sonny Gray, 2.87 ERA, 205 Ks, 10.5 Ks per 9. Then Trevor Bauer struggled last year, actually. He had a 4.48 ERA, but with 10.6 Ks a 9. He actually had, I think, 12 Ks per 9 the year before. The one thing with Bauer, and we'll talk about this too, I'll actually lead you into this. With Trevor Bauer, Steven, his home runs per 9 in 2019 were 1.44 per 9. And then in 2018, it was 0.46 per 9. The stats say that anything below 0.1 is amazing. So that shows you his home runs jumped by over 1 in 1 year. That's probably what happened with the ERA there.
Yeah, I look at Bauer, and it's a guy he's very analytical when he's on the mound. Yeah, I've listened to a few interviews with him. He's a very, very intelligent guy, and I think he said even last year he was working on too many different grips. He was trying different pitches, trying to find little tweaks in his game, and he obviously got traded. Was it last year? He got traded from
Cleveland,
the Indians from Cleveland over to Cincinnati. So you have a culture change there. So it kind of, as a starting pitcher, you want some consistency, and so I think that kind of shook him up a little bit. But a guy for his home runs per 9 to jump that much, I think it very well contributes to his mentality of how he was approaching to get guys out at the plate. If you kind of steer off to what you're really made of and your philosophy growing up and getting into the major leagues, you kind of deviate from that. It can hurt you because you're not. It's something new, and definitely it's a huge adjustment. So I think that really hurt him last year, but definitely look for a bounce back year from him, going back for his first full year in Cincinnati. Like we said, this guy could be a number 1 anywhere else. You look at Castillo too and Gray. I mean, this pitching rotation, I look at it, you go in depth, and it just 1 through 5. It's very, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even mention the other guys yet. By the way, Bauer also had 253 strikeouts, which is crazy. But Anthony DeSclafani even, 3.89 ERA. He had 9 strikeouts per 9. I mean, that's really good. 2.6 walks. I mean, you're talking about some really good stats here. And then you had Wade Miley over in Houston, given a 3.98 ERA with a 4.51 FIP. So that shows that Houston defense helped. And his home runs per 9 actually jumped as well. He had a 1.24 home runs per 9 this year. It was a 0.33 the year before, which is even better than Bauer's. So that's an elite home runs per 9. If he can get back to that can be really significant for them. I mean, not many teams have a 5-man deep rotation.
Yeah, you look at the teams that really succeed in the league, and you look at the Yankees, Rays, Red Sox, when they won their World Series. They had 1 through 5. Look at the Nationals last year, 1 through 5. You can really go 1, 2, 3, 4 and have a full punch for those 4 guys. And then I look at Cincinnati, and 1 through 4, it's solid. You have going down to DeSclafani, and then you have Wade Miley, who kind of struggled last year at certain points, but definitely not a guy who's below average. I mean, a 3.9 ERA, his walks per nine is down. The only thing I look at is his home runs per nine. That was a little bit higher last year. Leaving balls up in the zone, kind of getting hurt there. But minor adjustments for Miley. But you put those top three along with those two. I mean, it could be dangerous for that division. For people that overlooked the Reds for being second to last place in division, but not by a wide margin.
For sure, and not just the rotation, Steven. They've also got an amazing bullpen too. They've got Amir Garrett out there, throws 100 miles per hour.
Hmm.
Basically, their second Aroldis Chapman. Not there in terms of statistics yet. He does have some statistics though. They're incredible. 69 games, 3.21 ERA. His FIP was 4.14, which is interesting. I would assume though that stat might be a little misleading for bullpen guys, considering they have a lack of innings. But then he has 10.67 Ks per nine. The walks are high, which is probably why that ERA is a little bit high. He's got 5.6 walks per nine. That's not good at all. 78 total strikeouts. This guy's a beast. They have Raisel Iglesias as their closer. He had last year a 4.16 ERA with a 3.92 FIP, 11.96 strikeouts per nine. So that's two really amazing strikeout numbers there. They have Matt Bowman, a nice guy they can throw in there. Michael Lorenzen, one of their better relievers, 73 games. When you can get 73 games out of a reliever, that's really valuable. That's 83 and a third innings, 2.92 ERA, 9 strikeouts per nine. They got Pedro Strop from the Cubs. He's had a long major league career with Baltimore and Chicago. And then Robert Stevenson as well. Really tremendous pitcher, can eat up innings, 57 games, 64 and two-thirds. And then for that final spot in the pen, they can give it to a former starter that's now kicked out of the rotation, Tyler Mahle. They have Lucas Sims, Schaefer, Cody Reed was injured last year. He's a lefty. And then they have Adam Kunal. So this Reds bullpen is also very above average.
Yeah, a guy who I love is Amir Garrett, a guy who has some fire underneath him. As we remember the brawl with Pittsburgh last year, a guy who's not afraid of anyone. He'll throw inside on you. He definitely wants you off the plate, and like he's a guy, like I said, reminds you of Aroldis Chapman. Not quite there yet, but if he works on his stuff, I mean, he was 5-3 last year with a 3.2 ERA in 69 games, 78 strikeouts. His WHIP, you'd like to get a little bit lower. It's at a 1.4 right now. But a guy who I like his delivery. He works to strike guys out, works guys in a smart way, likes to work backwards a lot. Um, but definitely a guy who can lead that bullpen. And you go down the line, Pedro Strop, guy that got from the Cubs, another guy who I like. I mean, his stuff last year kind of was teetering on the edge of dicey. He was 4.97 ERA, but definitely a guy who's been in the league a long enough time where he knows the ropes and can definitely squeak him in there and piece together a few innings in a weekend series. But I look down through this whole bullpen, and I like all the guys they added and guys that can really improve from last year. Like Iglesias has a ton of room for improvement.
Yeah,
Bowman. So it's along with this rotation. I mean, this pitching staff is nearly complete, and that's something you really need if you want to aspire to be up there with a Cardinals team or a Cubs team that has won championships in previous years. So looking at that, I think they can really be a legit contender, win 80 plus games this year.
I agree with you. And another thing about them, and they're a team that does this. There's a lot of pitchers in this bullpen that used to be starters. Michael Lorenzen, Robert Stevenson are in there and they've thrived. Now they're trying to do the same thing with Tyler Mahle and Lucas Sims. What do you think about that? You get to the big leagues, struggle in the rotation, and then they move you to the bullpen. What's the mindset around that?
Yeah, sometimes some guys aren't just meant to be starters. You look at these guys who go up in college and they go through the minor league system and they want to be starting pitchers, but some pitching coaches don't see you as that guy. They think, hey, you can be really valuable in this bullpen. If you give me you save your bullets, you just go 2 innings hard for me, you can make a lifetime in baseball being a 2 inning relief pitcher. So the mindset shifts a little bit because you're not when you're a starter, you want to save your energy and you want to go 7 innings and give your team as much as you can. Bullpen, you got to come out there and really be strategic. You got to really pay attention from inning one to when you're coming in because you have to see these hitters' tendencies. What do they do in the previous at bats? So transferring from a starting pitcher to a relief role is challenging, and some guys take it the wrong way because they think, "Oh wow, I'm not what they want me to be. This is not what I wanted." So definitely the guys that transfer over are the most successful. They're really mentally tough and they can really, play both sides of the ball. And not saying they will never be starters again, just and the time they want you to figure your stuff out and see if you can thrive in the bullpen for them.
And now we'll move on to their prospects here. We've got Nick Lodolo, the left-handed pitcher, number 48 on the MLB Top 100 list. One thing that's really significant about that, and is something that people don't understand, if you're a top 100 prospect in baseball, that's out of thousands of minor league players. There's three or four, actually, there's more than four. There's probably, I would say, 6 or 7 minor league levels. That's thousands of players. If you're in the top 100, that means you're really good. So Nick Lodolo right there. Then you have Hunter Green at number 53. I remember when he was drafted, this dude's supposed to be a stud. They also have some prospects that aren't in the top 100 but could pave some important inroads for them in the future. Catcher Tyler Stevenson. They have Barnhart behind the plate now. He's not that effective. They could look for really any replacement there. And then, like we mentioned earlier, they have Jonathan India, third base prospect from UF. He's an absolute beast. Like I said, I see them maybe transitioning him over to first base to replace Votto because Suarez is not going anywhere. One thing about these prospects, man, Lodolo and Green, one problem with the Reds rotation. There's only one. It's their contracts. Sonny Gray and Trevor Bauer will be eligible for free agency, and so will Wade Miley. And Luis Castillo is 30 years old. So that's one thing about this rotation. There's not a lot of longevity on it. If you can get Hunter Green and Lodolo in there, that solves your problem right there.
Yeah, for sure. You look at, like you said, the guys that could be exiting the team after this year, which is scary because you have such a solid lineup and pitching rotation that could get you to the playoffs potentially this year. So getting a guy like Hunter Green excelled through their minor league system, Lodolo, get them really getting as much innings as you can, which is tough right now. We talked about this the other day. Having this season canceled could be the worst thing for these minor league players. Because if you're a major league player and you have a year off, all right, you get back to work. If you're a minor league guy, that's a whole year of development that gets taken away from you in real game time reps. So guys like Lodolo and Hunter Green, if they can get some sort of reps this year and accelerate their progress through the farm system, that could really help the Cincinnati Reds team and organization and getting some of these guys to the 40-man roster and getting them their major league clock started.
Out later. Okay, good. It said we just did for a second. I think it's fine. Okay. So Stephen, what do you give them? Grade for the offseason, and where do you have them finishing in the division?
In the offseason, I give them a B plus. I think the additions of Moustakas, Castellanos, and they even got a trade from Tampa. They got Jose De Leon, guy who's been hurt, elbow surgery, but he's a guy who has proven that he can throw in the major leagues. It's another prospect that they have. So I give them a solid B plus. Great additions for that lineup. You can't forget Akiyama. That guy could lead off and really take off, and who knows what his production level will be in the major leagues. But great offseason for the Reds, and their win totals. I think I have them at 82 wins right now, just because I don't know. Last year coming off 75. They could be a playoff contender. They could be 86, 87 win team and sneak into the wild card. But
this is where we're gonna stray a little bit in opinion. I actually have them winning the division. Like I said, I've been on them. They're kind of my sleeper pick right there. They've got the lineup, they've got the rotation, they've got the bullpen. It's rare when teams have all three of those working at the same time. That's why I have them, and I would give them an A for the offseason. I mean, you had two of the top free agents to bolster your lineup. That was their one weakness, their lineup, and they got two guys to really boost that. Actually, three with Akiyama. I love their minor league system too. I mean, they've got guys coming. This is a really good team. I like them to win the NL Central this year. Win total, I don't know. I'm going to have to figure that out, but I do have them winning the NL Central. So that'll do it for this Cincinnati Reds 2020 season preview. We hope they play some of these games, obviously, so that these predictions come true. But you can listen to this podcast anywhere. You can listen to it on Spotify, YouTube, Breaker, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, a bunch of places, YouTube as well. Thank you guys for listening. For Steven, I'm Jacob, and we will see you next time. Actually, tomorrow with the Chicago Cubs video? Yep, so Chicago Cubs podcast coming out
Chicago
tomorrow,
Cubs.
and we will see you next time.